shirt, man.
Hey, thanks, man.
Oh,
Peace and love, brother.
Sexy. I like it. Episode 173. Paul Whitcombe. I don't know what the date is. Oh, no, it's September 1st. September 1st, 2020, 2:33 p.m. Eastern Time. And world's kind of on fire, but as we said yesterday with my buddy Brad, you know, for a world that's gone through a pandemic and a bunch of civil unrest, we're doing it in stride. I mean, all things considered, like, we're doing it in stride. We're taking it. That's not to diminish the deaths, but like normally you don't have like running water and internet and electricity and automobiles during pandemics.
And delivery.
Exactly. So, fuck yeah. But so you don't need to introduce yourself. You've been on here enough times. I always go through your posts on Facebook. The underworld, was it clowns, killers?
Kings, killers, and clowns.
Kings, killers, and clowns, all about the Chicago outfit and mafia in general. And I like them. I like them a lot. There's a lot of interesting shit. But some of them are gory. God, that picture of the dude in the back of the car.
Horrible.
Ooh. But
what a way to go.
The one I saw, though, Dan.
Mad Sam DeStefano.
Serial killer. I was like, okay, yeah, like they all, you know, they're all serial killers. Like, yeah, I got it. But it was the soundproof torture chamber and the altar to Satan. And I texted you and I was like, we gotta just do an episode. And you were like, let's do it today. And I was like, let's do it today. Big dick energy. Here we are.
Here we are, buddy.
So fucking just go into it. Just take the reins, Paul.
There's so many stories that come out of the outfit, which is the name for what you would call the mafia or the mob out east. Chicago is real different. We in popular culture, it really starts with Al Capone, who is probably the most famous criminal in history.
Yeah,
I don't know. Can you think of another criminal that's as well known as Al Capone?
I went to elementary school with his grandson was in my older brother's class.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, New Hampshire, Aaron Ellis. Yeah.
So that's really what starts the story, and it's beyond the scope of today to talk about the history of that and prohibition, and it goes back a long way. But boy, Mad Sam DeStefano was probably the worst torture murderer in the history of Chicago, and maybe even more. He was.
What made it so bad?
Well, it's a good question. Mad Sam was one of a family of criminals. Just to put that in perspective, how twisted that family situation was, he had a younger brother, Michael, who was a drug addict, heroin, and it was embarrassing to Mad Sam, and he saw it somehow as unclean, and so he killed his brother. And very carefully washed his body, arranged him very nicely so he would be found right away. And that was how he dealt with the family embarrassment of having a drug addict. Many years later, his own brother killed Mad Sam. So it came full circle. And
fitting ending.
It really is, isn't it? But anyway, Sam DeStefano was a crook, a thief, a burglar, and there were a lot of them in Chicago in the 30s, as you've heard. It wasn't limited to Chicago, to Al Capone, and there were an awful lot of criminals who were not part of the outfit, that weren't mafia members, but they were just doing their thing. But a guy named Mad Sam DeStefano, who was known as just Sam DeStefano, was in prison and ran into a guy by the name of Paul Ricca. Paul Ricca was the real heir of Al Capone's empire.
Okay.
He impressed Paul Ricca in ways that I don't know. I can't imagine what kind of a thing you're doing as a talent scout for the mafia. You can't really post your needs on ZipRecruiter. Indeed,
a literal headhunter. Yeah.
Yes, we're looking for literal
headhunters. Literal. We are.
So Sam, who lived on Sayre here on Chicago's far west edge, just about into the suburbs. Across the street was a suburb, actually. He married his wife Anita. He had a normal life to that extent, but as he began to get involved with Paul Ricca's outfit, first he became a juice loan collector. You know what that is, right?
I have no idea what that is.
Well, a loan shark.
Okay. What is juice?
You call it the juice in Chicago.
Okay.
And you loan people money at an outrageous sum.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the interest is so high that just the interest payments are enormous.
Yeah.
And the only desperate people go to juice loan guys. And, well, you get to, how do you collect that money? There's no bank. You can't take it to court. And that quickly became Sam DeStefano's favorite part of the job.
Oh, God.
He would torture people. One famous guy was a little late on the money, so Sam kidnapped the guy and chained him to a radiator and made his family at a family gathering, brought the guy in, chained him to a radiator, and made his family pull down their pants and urinate on him in front of the whole crowd. And he had a reputation for that kind of thing. That's why he was called Mad Sam. Even the killers in the mob were terrified of this guy. And Mad Sam was not just a bad guy. He was a Satanist.
Yeah.
And would have fits where he'd throw himself to the ground and spin around like some demented Curly from the Three Stooges and cry out to Satan and how he belonged to Satan and asking for Satan's help. And so the guy's got a pretty black resume.
Sure.
Not the kind of guy you'd want to borrow any money from, right?
Or the guy that you want collecting your money.
That's the interesting thing about it. He was so sick
if he
so
worked,
twisted.
I was going to say, if he worked for China, the U.S. would have paid our debt off years ago. You need 20 trillion? Got it, bud. Here you go.
That's exactly
lump sum,
right.
Precious metals. You got it yesterday.
It's amazing what an ice pick to the scrotum does to one's motivation.
Amazing. Yeah, it really does. But
yeah. But this guy, he was the real thing. I mean, he was so vicious and so unpredictable that even though he earned a lot of money, the mafia would never let him be a member, the outfit. He was never a made member of the outfit because he was just plain too terrifying and too crazy. He was too crazy for Al Capone's heirs. That tells you something about how whacked out this guy was. Kind
of ironic. It's almost the same. It's almost the same stain that he viewed his little brother as, the heroin addict.
Right.
Same. That's exactly, it's a stain. Right. Keep him at a distance.
He's very useful.
Yes.
But that's all he is.
Yes.
He was an animal.
To Rottweiler, yeah.
He made a ton of money, and people were terrified of him.
Yeah.
Give you an idea. I got a couple of stories about Mad Sam that are pretty amazing. The first one is, this is how insane he was. He got upset at his wife Anita for some reason. I imagine being this guy's wife, and come home and dinner's not ready.
Maybe he is just an awesome husband.
Oh, wouldn't he be great?
Maybe
so he got mad at her, and this is how he punished her. And this was in the late 50s, early 60s. Segregation is still in play. Mad Sam got in his car, drove to a gas station, went up to the first black man he saw, stuck a gun in his ribs and said, "You're coming with me." Tossed the guy in his car. This poor guy's thinking he's getting kidnapped or what have you. He drove the guy back to the house and then forced his wife to perform fellatio on him at gunpoint to punish her. So this poor guy, you can imagine, he's African-American, he's being forced to do this. He thought for sure he's about to be either killed or sent to jail for the rest of his life. So he actually was let go by Mad Sam. He went right to the police station and reported the whole thing.
Maybe Sam was just into that.
Well, Sam was into a lot.
Maybe he was just into that, and that was his excuse. If he had been alive in 2020, hey, no one shames you. If you're into cuckoldry, it's fine. Hey man, that's fine. No one
can. On the Tumblr anytime, and
yeah, exactly. Props to that black guy.
Well, tell you what, the guy was terrified, and rightfully so. Not only did he survive a trip to Mad Sam's house, but
how do you even get it up during that?
That's a really interesting technical question. I'm not really sure to know the answer.
I had a friend that had sex in the U.S. Capitol building.
No kidding.
Yeah, he was like 22 or something. Brilliant kid. One of my best friends. Mm-hmm. He was like interning for some senator or something. And he fucked this chick in the bathroom. And I was like, how'd you do it? And he was like, I was horrified. And I was like, did that help? And he was like, it actually did. It was pure fear-based. And I was like, why did you do it? And he was like, I don't know, but it had to be done. And I was like, he's very successful. He's a very successful guy. You never know. But yeah, sorry. So yeah, Mad Sam. Yeah, so punish his wife, and yeah, that is a little fucked up. It sounds a little more sex-driven. Sounds a little more like that was just an excuse. Maybe he was looking for an excuse. He just couldn't be open with his wife.
It's really hard to say. The thing about that is that implies that somehow he was afraid. And I don't think Mad Sam was afraid of anything.
No, me neither.
I really don't.
Maybe really was just insane.
Yeah. And another great story about him is told by Bill Romer, who was the most decorated FBI agent in the history of the agency. And in the 50s through the 70s, mid-70s, he was assigned to the organized crime unit in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And one of his objects was to recruit informants, double agents, within the outfit. So Romer, in his book, The Man Against the Mob, writes about how he tried to recruit Mad Sam by visiting. Once a week, he would go to Sam and Anita's house on Sayre Avenue, and just to try and talk to Sam, just to try and cultivate a relationship. And Anita would always serve him coffee before Sam would come up from the basement. And this went on for years. Now, Romer always thought the coffee was bizarre, but he figured it was some Italian thing. It just didn't taste quite right. Later, he was talking to a confidential informant that he did recruit after years of visiting Mad Sam and the weird coffee. And the informant said, you dumbass Romer, he's been pissing in your coffee every day.
Okay, that's better than I thought it was going to be. I figured it was going to be piss or something. I was like, I was thinking it was going to be like the blood from the jugular of whoever he was torturing. Piss is not as bad, man. If you ever gone through a fraternity and you were a pledge at some point, you fuck with their food and their drink. And in turns, it probably happens to you. That's not as bad.
It's
fucked up.
Not as bad as it could have been in the universe of Mad
Sam. I was thinking it was going to be like the entrails or like the recently evacuated bowels of whoever he just killed. All things considered, that's not that bad.
All things considered, you're right. And I had never thought of it in that perspective. I think Romer probably should have thanked him.
Yeah, all things considered, we're taking the pandemic in stride. All things considered, pissy coffee.
Peaceful.
That's pretty good, man. That's almost as good as just simply getting off by, you got away after getting some head from his wife. That's all things considered. That's got away.
You're right about that. But the FBI agent, and he was so nuts that every time he was arrested, he had a trial, he would make a circus out of it. So in the last one, he's indicted with one of his students, someone he brought up in the mob. You might know who he is, Tony Spilotro.
Okay, Casino, right?
Casino. Yes, you've seen it. So the Joe Pesci character.
Yeah, who looks identical.
Who looks like him. Absolutely.
Incredible
I think
casting.
Joe Pesci was over the top a little bit in terms of the constant cussing, emotions, but he really played the part well. And so he and Spilotro are on charge together, and Mad Sam comes to court in a hospital bed yelling at the judge through a megaphone. So this was of great concern to his co-defendants, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
You can imagine this is not going to make the jury like us, right?
No.
So Mad Sam's in his garage. Don't know what he was doing for sure. But up comes Tony Spilotro. Behind him is his own brother, Mario Di Stefano. greets him, says hello. Tony Spilotro steps aside. Mario's got a sawed-off shotgun, double barrel, and he unloads both barrels right into Mad Sam. One severed his left arm completely from his body, killed him instantly. And they walked away calmly. And that was the end of Mad Sam DeStefano.
It's like the line from Goodfellas. It's like, it's the ones who get you. It's like, they're your friends. It's not your enemies. They come to you smiling.
Always.
That's so... But I feel like you probably got to know that when you're in that industry.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think any of them are doing it in hopes of living a long life.
No.
It's fast and hard.
There are so few exceptions of those that lived a long time.
Yeah. I always think of that.
9 out of 10.
I always think about that when watching Goodfellas. Because in my fucking pussy mind, I'm always like, how can you do this? Are you putting away money? You're spending all that money on coats. You're killing everyone. You're gonna die. Like, you know, because I'm just like, oh God, what are you doing? But I realize now, I'm like, these guys, you know, I'm looking at it like, I want this podcast to grow. I'm 30. By 40, I want to do this. By 50, I want to do this. By 60, I think I can push for change in mental health. These guys aren't doing that. These guys are fucking, you know, getting blowjobs from 3 girls at once, pinstripe uniform. I'm drinking $10,000 cognac in a brand new Cadillac with pearlescent like dashboards, and I don't know if I'm dying today or in 10 years.
Right.
But they're going hard today.
Or what kind of a death it's going to be.
Yeah, death is. I don't think these guys are scared by that. I think they know
they should be in Chicago, because Chicago's known for torture. They don't just kill you.
Okay, so it's not just the simple to the back of the head. It's
no.
But even then, man, maybe that's their payoff. They're like, hey, it's part of the thrill. It's like I don't know, it's getting like hot wax on your balls. It's part of it. They're like, that makes it so much better. Something drives these guys that's not, that you and I can't rationally relate to.
Power.
That's what I'm saying,
Money.
though. The power. I mean, you got to think, even being like the president, I look at it as like, that's terrifying. Everyone's trying to kill you. You got to have X Delta Force around you at all times.
Right.
I feel like if you're at that point, that probably helps. That probably helps get you. It probably helps you get it up, knowing that everyone's those guys. It's a different breed.
It's interesting how every point in this conversation works its way around to erections.
Well, you know what? That's everything in humanity. I mean, what is a penthouse but a very nice eagle's nest? It's you're doing your dance. What is an Armani suit? How is that any different from like a colorful feather? It's all mating dances, man. That's all it is.
Hypoallergenic.
It's all it is all it is mating dances. That's all anything we're doing. Why do you want $1 billion? You can max out your fun at a couple million. Why do you want $1 billion? Mm-hmm. To have any girl? Why? So you're the man. Why? Because your DNA is playing a trick on you, and it's saying everything's got to go through the dick into a vagina. And we're just cavemen. We're going to the moon. We've gone to the moon. We're doing great things, but I mean, come on, dog. We're apes. That's all it is. It's all boners. It's all big dicks.
All right, I'll buy that philosophy.
If we can remove that drive, that's when evolution will go through the fucking ceiling. No longer driven by dicks.
I would want to live in the world like that.
Exactly. So maybe that's an evolutionary. Maybe it's not a bug. Maybe it's a feature. Have everything driven by dicks. I swear to God, you'll have these puppies on the moon within 10,000 years of making the pyramids.
It's a plus as far as I consider it.
Hey, as far as I know, it is. Maybe it's not. But let's bring it back to the satanic aspect of that, because Jeffrey Dahmer was building a. I really don't. I hate looking into serial killers because I'm such a pussy and I get scared. But there is something. I mean, there's something that you can't look away from. It is a train wreck. You just like, what happened, right? He was building an altar out of like skulls and bones. But I don't think he was truly into Satanism, because when asked about it when he was in prison, he kind of just shrugged and was like, I don't know, it kind of seemed like a cool thing. Didn't seem like he was as into it, like eyes wide shut, kind of like Illuminati shit. Mad Sam seems like that was his nut.
Yeah, not in like a Church of Satan Hollywood type of way.
Yeah.
But in a genuine, he thought Satan was where it was at, and he was as evil as he could be, and I personally know somebody who was in that basement and survived, which makes it rare. And second, he saw.
Can you touch on that?
The altar. Well, yeah, I have a friend whose name is Red We Met.
Okay.
And Red got out of the Marines, moved to Chicago, 1965, and got connected with the Chicago outfit. And he ran a porn shop, and of course that's the kind of thing that attracts the outfit. And he did minor things for the outfit, but the main thing that happened was he recorded over 600 hours of conversations with Frankie the German Schweiss, who could make Mad Sam DeStefano give him a good run for his money as the scariest guy in the Chicago outfit.
Why is that?
So Red We Met through his connections before he turned over this to the government. He was in Mad Sam DeStefano's basement for a meeting with a guy by the name of Kurt Hansen. And he knew what went on there, and he lived to tell the tale.
Can you tell the people listening what went on there?
Oh, well, sure. And he
soundproof basement,
chaining people up and torture with ice picks and knives and hammers and baseball bats and chains and horrible things. And nobody knows to this day how many people were tortured and killed in that basement, but it was a lot. And the whole underworld was terrified of the guy. So terrified that, of course, they eventually killed him. And he couldn't be controlled.
And he
was
altar.
Used as a source of fear, and he was a very good earner.
And he had an altar.
He had an altar of Satan in his basement, yes.
Can you go into that more? Do you know anything more about it?
Red described it to me as draped a table draped in black cloth, and he didn't see him perform anything or anything like that. I don't think that Mad Sam was organized, not only in a serial killer sense, but in his life enough to be part of any kind of organized religion. My guess would be that he would call out to Satan like you and I would call out to Jesus, and just feel it was natural.
Sure. And
that was something he never denied. And when you're at the point where these mobsters wouldn't bring you into the club because you're too dangerous, you were one rabid dog.
I mean, Hitler was scared of one of his guys, Reinhard Gehlich, I think.
Heydrich.
Yeah. That was in a Surprise Kill Vanish by Annie Jacobson. Talked about his assassination. Yes. Hitler feared him. Said
yes.
Hitler apparently said that man has an iron heart. Hitler said that. Hitler was like, he's a bad guy.
Quite a compliment.
Yeah, when Hitler's like, apparently Hitler was kind of uneasy around him too. Yeah, always had his own, you have to fact check me, but apparently always had his own security detail. Not just like normal SS, but was just like, I don't know what this motherfucker is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's like being called a horn dog by Bill Clinton.
Exactly. That's like Bill Clinton, like, that man doesn't understand that no means no. That man doesn't understand respect. It's like, whoa. You know? Whoa.
Yeah, that's as hot as it gets, I think, right there.
Exactly. That's Tom Brady calling you a baller, right?
There you go. It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So being in that basement, though, I feel like that's something that you're not supposed to you're supposed to experience and live to tell.
No, very few people did.
That's like Joe Pesci in Goodfellas walking into the room and it's empty. Yeah. Oh, fuck! Boom!
Yeah, right.
That's what you don't see that and go, wow. You know, if you're in some like deep underground Masonic lodge and you're watching ex-presidents like sacrifice a baby in black robes, it's not like, man, I'm going to tweet about this. It's like, oh, so I guess this is the last thing I see, right?
Yes.
You don't see it and walk away.
Well, in the Chicago outfits has a history of torture like this. I mean, there are other stories. Famous story is that of Axon Jackson, 300-pound juice loan collector that was seen on the streets of downtown Chicago, seen talking to an FBI agent. That was enough for the outfit to have him knocked down, and not just knocked down, but tortured to death. He was a bad guy, and there's a lot of bad feelings about him. So some people will say this was just an excuse, but whatever. Several outfit hitters took him to a meat rendering plant and hung him on a meat hook through his rectum and tortured him with a cattle prod. They would pour water over his body and then stick him in the penis with the cattle prod, smashed his knees with baseball bats. It went on. How long do you think he survived that particular treatment?
14 hours.
3 days.
Jesus Christ in heaven.
3 days. And it turned out the mobsters, they were actually caught on a wire talking about this. One of them said, I never could figure out why that fat fuck didn't admit that he was a rat. Well, the reason was he wasn't.
Damn.
The FBI agent just came up to him and started talking to him. Jackson never gave him anything.
Damn. So in his mind, he's probably like, I'm not telling this guy shit. They're going to be so proud of me.
Yeah.
And they were like, fuck that guy.
Right. That's exactly right.
Maybe that FBI agent was a sly dog. Maybe he was like, I'm going to let these motherfuckers see me talk to him. Maybe that got him. Yeah, I was going to say, that's a way to get some street cred in the FBI. Be like, yeah, I talked to a guy once and they tortured him to death because they're scared of me.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Can you imagine, though, 300 pounds impaled by your rectum? I mean, at what point does shock knock you out? Oh, I'm sure he passed out several times.
Imagine waking up and you're still there.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are a couple of the stories of torture in the Chicago outfit. And, of course, the most famous one, if you've seen Casino, you've seen it, where they put the guy's head in the vice.
Popped his eye out.
That was Tony Spilatro that did that. Mad Sam's protege.
Oh.
One of the guys there was eating pasta while it was going on. So you can imagine.
I saved that image you posted in your Facebook group, which I'll link in the description and top comment. Mm-hmm. Is Al Capone's spaghetti, secret spaghetti?
Oh yeah,
yeah, it looks good. I want to get my mom to make it.
Yeah, we're gonna give that a try. There's a lot of good recipes, a lot of good eating. That's one thing about.
Fucking, like I said, man, it's live hard and fast.
Yes, that's one thing you always see on TV, right? The gangsters, they go to their moms and she feeds them all before they go out and bury the bodies.
Yeah. Goodfellas has a great bit about that. You gotta eat, Mom. We gotta go. We gotta eat. You want to?
Yeah. Have a meal.
Yeah. The tomatoes in jail. Gotta get them just right. Yes. Just right. Yeah, it is. Yeah. God damn, man. But I like that group. I like that Facebook group. It's I love seeing the posts. It's because I download social media to post my podcast and then I delete it every day. I've been doing it for about a year since I started the podcast, 9 months. Because I on a side tangent that I won't go on. I find my mental health is better and I'm in a happier place when I'm not constantly, mindlessly, and aesthetically just scrolling. Because next thing you know, you do it long enough, and I don't even just mean you'll waste time. You do it long enough, and I find that it's like almost like a draining system. Like they all drain to the same main sewer. I always find I end up in the main Reddit, Instagram, Facebook. I always end up in the same main sewer of thought, and it's look at everyone else's life. Look how much better they are than mine. And then I'm always like, that's a curated image. It's edited.
You edited it.
They took, and not only is it edited, but it's pre-edited in that they chose to take that picture instead of all the other hours of them hanging out, waiting for their meal. Instead, it's the perfect lighting, and it always makes me depressed. So I do post my podcast there. But whenever I get on, I can't help but scroll for just a couple minutes because I see all your posts. Because that's the only thing. Everything else is just like as Tim Dillon says, it's just old people screaming at each other. So I just cycle through that, but I see yours, and I love the post because it's always. I mean, it's like history quality. It is. It's the point of me saying all that. The picture of whose wife and your wife.
Oh yeah, that was Nancy Spilatro.
Yeah,
Tony Spilatro's wife. Yeah,
you've got a mob boss wife, Paul.
And that's what she tells me. I tell her you need a mob, and she says that's nonsense.
She looks the part. She can play it. You
I
could
think
play.
she could do it.
You could play the part of a mob boss.
Yeah, I'd love to. I think it'd be great.
You absolutely could.
The one that lives to a long age.
Yeah, long
That's the
happy ending, and it turns out at the very end they find out that you were running it through surrogates.
Correct.
That's the way to do it, man. Is to never show your
way.
fucking face. You don't want to be the front
I tell
man
you, some of them has succeeded in doing that.
because you never hear of them.
You can never hear of them, and there are ones that just come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you find out like these were the guys at the top.
Yeah, and they're like
The government's
90.
faced other guys.
Yeah. You've posted some images of that, of like the outfit lineup, and it's always like it's a guy's face or name that you never hear, and it's like you've heard of Al Capone, you've heard of Tony, and then you just see some dude and it's just some Italian motherfucker, but he could just as easily just own a deli, but it turns out he's the mob, he's the kingpin, but he's not fucking stupid. He plays it through different faces.
You got it. You don't want to be John Gotti or Al Capone.
No. Because
you want to be Sam Carlisi.
Yeah. You don't. Yeah.
You don't know who that is, and nobody knows who that is. The government didn't have a picture of him.
You don't want to be the. You don't want to be the CEO of Apple. You want to be. You want to be the hedge fund owner. That is hidden behind umbrella corporations. But
that's key.
When you see that, though, it leads a little bit of like. What's the right word? Is credence the right word? Lends credence?
Credence or street cred, or depending on the implication.
Oh, okay. I mean, like I'm looking for like
gravitas,
authenticity, like legit. Well, I'm saying it leads, gives some seriousness to the idea that like the president is just a front man, whether or not he knows it. That's up for conspiratorial argument, but it gives a little like, if you see it in this organized crime. Not just gangbangers, but I mean guys that pull off billions of dollars of revenue, so they're intelligent. Even like Pablo Escobar, like gunned down on a rooftop. Like you don't want to be the head man, right? You want to be behind it.
There's a lot of debate in Chicago about who is the head man, if there even is a head man anymore, for that very reason.
I mean,
nobody wants to be in the crosshairs of the government.
Exactly, which is. I mean, I saw an interview with Vladimir Putin a couple days ago, but I think it's from a couple years ago. And he's like, it's all in Russian, but like, he says like, I'll tell you what happens. But it sounds a lot like the Bill Hicks bit. You ever seen that Bill Hicks bit where he's like, I can almost recite it. He's like, a handful of people control the world. It's not a conspiracy. There's a handful of people that control everything. That's just what it is. It's nothing sexy about it, but it is what it is. And he goes, and when you're campaigning and you make all your promises, he goes, and you win the election. You didn't win it. You were chosen to win it, but you may think you won it. And you go in there and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. He goes, you do your inauguration, you do your parade, you go to the White House, and then like a door opens up and they bring you down to a room under the Oval Office. You go down there, and it's a big, long wooden table, and it has the 12 industrialist, capitalist scumfucks that got you into that office. And they're all sitting around the table, smoky room, low lit, and they're smoking cigars. You take a seat, and you take a seat at the head of the table, and they get an old projector running, and the head guy, roll the film. And a projector comes down, and it's a video of the Kennedy assassination from an angle you've never seen before. Not the Zapruder film. And it looks an awfully lot like it's from the grassy knoll. And they don't say a word. Kennedy's head explodes. End it. The film rolls up, or the screen rolls up. The lights come on, they look at you and they go, any questions? And you go, what's my agenda? And they go, first we bomb Baghdad. You got it. but so what Vladimir Putin was saying, he kind of said the same thing. He was like, I'll tell you what happens. He's like, you get in office, and then after a couple weeks, a bunch of guys come in unsuspecting suits, and they tell you how it is. And he goes, look at Obama. He goes, Obama seems like a pretty, peaceful, liberal guy, like all things considered. What happened to that like promise that we're closing Guantanamo? He goes, do you think Obama was lying? He goes, I think he genuinely wanted to. Why didn't it happen? He goes, he was told that it's not happening. You can do other things. You can tinker around with the Overton window. But he's like, no, there are some things that you're not touching. But say all of that to say, when you see it happen in real life with the Chicago outfit, wouldn't, some systems just naturally not even copy each other. They just, it's like the wheel was invented on like multiple parts of the world, right? They built pyramids, and that doesn't mean they're all influenced. It might just be a natural thing, like a natural hierarchy. You build pyramids because with limited technology, that's the easiest way to go. The strongest load-bearing things on the bottom, and you get smaller as you go up. That's just like a natural law, right? It kind of seems like it could just be a natural law of organization or hierarchical organizing. Hierarchical organizing is a man behind the man. Do you think there's any credence to that?
I think there is, and certainly it's true with regard to organized crime in Chicago and presidents. And I mean, they're a perfect example. I mean, these guys in Chicago really, really had influence on a lot of presidents, and they directly got their guys appointed to the Supreme Court. They had the goods on attorney generals. And
well, you said the mafia did this?
Yeah.
The outfit got their guys on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
If you look that up, it's shocking, isn't it? But Paul Ricca, who we talked about, got himself let out of prison early by an attorney general by the name of Tom Clark, who worked for Truman. Truman, who happened to be a very mobbed up president, by the way.
He was?
He was.
I always thought Truman was
Kansas City mob.
I always thought he was just like a good old American. Maybe that is good old American.
Well, it was. It's a whole nother show, but Paul Ricca got out of prison early because Tom Clark let him out. It was a big scandal back in 1947 or so. Next thing we know, Tom Clark is on the Supreme Court of the United States. And his son in the 1960s, Ramsey Clark, is the attorney general now. The outfit has photographs of him when he was a student at law school in Chicago in a men's room doing things he shouldn't have done. What does Ramsey Clark do but stops all wiretapping of the Chicago outfit on the grounds that you thought it was violating their rights.
Constitutional.
Yep. And even though these things were not being used in court, there's so many tentacles of Chicago organized crime in government, in the movies, in music. I mean, they decided who was going to be a star, who wasn't going to be a star. That scene in The Godfather when they put the horse's head in the director's bed, that's all based in reality. Frank Sinatra was contracted to sing with Tommy Dorsey's band. Tommy Dorsey wouldn't let him go out of the contract, so they sent a gunsel to get into his bed with him and put a 38 into his mouth and say, "Hey, we're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Sign the release." And same thing happened at the end of Sinatra's career to get into From Here to Eternity. The mob directed his career from the beginning. I think I told you this. One of the biggest guys in the Chicago outfit was named Murray Humphreys, the Hump. His daughter, Luella, had emotional problems. Guess who her date was to the high school prom? Frank Sinatra. Now, how do you think that happened?
And didn't in Bill O'Reilly's Killing Kennedy? Whenever I say that, some people tighten up because they don't like Bill O'Reilly, which is fine. I don't know anything. I'll be honest. I don't know anything about him. He has a fantastic ghostwriter, so he has a lot of books, and I often mention them on this podcast. Don't tighten up and blot it out just because it's the name Bill O'Reilly. You don't have to like him. I'm indifferent to him. It's a ghostwriter, and his ghostwriter is incredible. And so all the books, Killing Patton, Killing Kennedy, Killing the SS, Killing the Rising Sun, those are all awesome books. Yeah, the royalties go to Bill O'Reilly. Just fucking listen to them. They're great books. But in Killing Kennedy, they talk about how JFK was actually advised by, I think, Robert Kennedy to distance himself from Sinatra because of Sinatra's mob ties.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That happened because mobsters, Sam Mooney Giancana, who was a flashy John Gotti type of mob leader, was drunk. He was yelling, and he was telling the FBI if they ever wanted to talk to him that they knew who they could go through. They could go through Frank Sinatra. And of course, the Kennedys were supposed to be close to Sinatra, and he did distance himself. You remember the big snub where he changed plans to stay at Sinatra's and stayed with Bing Crosby instead, a Republican.
That threw Sinatra into a rage. He had built a custom helicopter pad for Kennedy, and when he found out about that, apparently he went out there like a fucking kid with a sledgehammer and broke down the entire concrete pad while screaming.
Yes.
And children.
There's pictures on our page of Sinatra with various members of the outfit, including Giancana, and the Fischetti brothers, who were Capone's cousins.
And isn't it weird how Kennedy got whacked, Robert got whacked, and Robert was looking into a lot of the mafia shit, right? And then their dad, Joe Kennedy, he was a moonshine fucking billionaire. I mean,
there's a whole nother book there about Joe Kennedy going to the outfit asking for help for John in the 1960 election.
Get him in office. God damn, man. This is all shit that if you wrote, it would be too sexy.
Right.
Like maybe HBO would take you up on it.
Oh, yeah.
But this is real. This is real. Game of Thrones shit.
Kennedy's CIA reached out to the outfit for help in assassinating Fidel Castro. I guess you think, well, who else is more qualified to kill somebody than the outfit?
I mean, shit, the U.S. government partnered with the mafia in New York because we were putting all of our war effort into going across the Atlantic and the Pacific because we had to go deal with all that. We didn't have time to deal with our own shore. So one thing we did, we had a lot of early citizen effort. Just like in the Cold War, they had citizen sky watchers to distinguish Soviet bombers. But in in World War II, we had a bunch of people who literally used to ride on beaches with horses looking for Japanese and German submarines. But with the big time shit that we really couldn't have fucked with, L.A., New York, who do we have? We went there with the mafia and we said, "Hey, watch the ports," because hey, we knew that they were watching them regardless. So.
You bet.
So hey, just if you see any guys that look a little German or look a little Asian, make them disappear, and we won't look at anything else that happens. Drug shipments, whatever.
And it got Luciano out of prison.
But I mean, I would argue that was probably good. I mean, what's the bigger enemy? The bigger enemy was a technologically advanced megalomaniac named Hitler.
You bet.
Probably good to turn the blind eye and let the mafia do. I mean, horrible shit, yeah, but not a mechanized 6 million person vaporizing apparatus called the concentration camps, right?
Machiavelli would have approved of the arrangement.
Absolutely, and not only that, they're the mafia who you still to an extent had under your thumb. They weren't building Messerschmitts and nuclear labs. They wanted money, they wanted cash. They wanted pussy, and they wanted guns. They didn't necessarily want a 1,000-year Reich.
Yeah, and this was at a time when the federal government, through the FBI, insisted there was no mafia.
It's dirty all the way up, man. It's dirty.
It wasn't until 1957 that they had to admit it.
It just makes you kind of realize, you're like, oh, the government is they're just the biggest mafia. They're just the best one. They're clean cut. They got a flag. And that's not the I fucking love this country, and I think I think the overwhelming majority of people in the higher ups of the government, I think they're legitimate people that just love their country and want the place to be a better place. They all have their human tendencies. They all lie and cheat. They're different than you or I. But I mean, I don't think they're bad people. But I mean, I think it's also. It is just the biggest. It's the biggest. They've got the biggest stick, and they clean it up, and they wear suits, and we have Capitol buildings, and we have names like senators and congressmen and deputy secretaries instead of like the Iceman or something. We have our hit teams. We call them Delta Force, Dev Crew. We have our intel men, but we call it the CIA and the NRO. We have our, we go up into other places and fuck with them. call it like a good offense, right? We have our ports. It's just Navy. It's all the same thing. It's just, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we're a bigger mafia. Maybe the mafia is just a smaller government. It's all the same. Is a power structure, right?
Absolutely right, and that's how the mafia really sustains itself, is that disenfranchised people bind together to protect themselves against prejudice and corruption. The model, it's been proven time and time again.
Yeah.
The Irish, the Italians, and on and on and on.
It's yeah. Do you think we have any goings-ons with the cartels in Mexico?
Oh, without a doubt.
I'm sure there's some backroom deals or something.
Oh, I'm sure there are. I'm sure that there are. I mean, what are those movies? The Sicario movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Back and forth between our intelligence guys and the cartels, and I'm sure I wouldn't doubt it. And I'm not a conspiracy nut by any means, but I think the reality is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at how they're tied up. Look at World War II in the ports. Castro. Why wouldn't it be?
I don't know. The thing that I think maybe is a lot bigger threat to us as individuals now is more like Amazon and Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
Much more of a threat to us, our freedoms.
Very subtle. They're not mob men killing your wives. It's very subtle. They come to you with brightly colored apps with squeaky, inviting little invitations and little noises. You like a tweet, or ding, and a little heart explodes. Ah, I posted something. I got 10 likes.
Yeah.
But they're
that little reward.
That little tentacles wrapping around the planet. It's even worse though is China. Did you see good for another 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it.
It's I don't know why I just did that. A whip.
It was a good sound though.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I thought to myself, that is a good whip.
That is a good whip soundtrack. This Tommy is a good guy. You know what? I'm going to write him a check for $2,000 because Paul, stop it. You don't need to do that. But if you insist. But so one of my favorite video game series is called Black Ops. And the first one came out when I was in college. And it's just like conspiracy, just like sweet nectar. And it's all about like past events. It's fictional kind of, but it's like the first one you're like, you're dealing with Soviets, you're dealing with like taking out their paperclip scientists. It came out in like 2010, right? And it's like the whole tagline was like, it was like the unwritten history, like what really happened. And I remember I loved it. I was like, fuck yeah, it's like off the books, so, no insignia. And it's like, yes. And like your guy ends up turning into like a Manchurian candidate that kills Kennedy or something. It's amazing. Even if you just watch like the cutscenes, all the cutscenes tied together, it's like an hour. It's a great little movie. The second one was cool because it went into like Noriega and shit, but then they went into the future and it got really stupid. And the third and the fourth ones I never played. We don't talk about those. They're terrible. But they're coming out with another one called Cold War, and it's all under Reagan. And it's about like KGB sleeper cells destabilizing the U.S. over decades. And it's like from an actual KGB defector that I'd never heard of. I don't know how I didn't, because I feel like I'd love it. Yuri Bezmenov, and he came over and apparently gave like a warning to the CIA. He was like, there's a sleeper agent, and the Soviets have like a 4-decade plan to take over America. And he's like, it starts with demoralization, which takes 10 to 15 years, Vietnam. Then it's like destabilization, and then you start hitting the staples, the economy. So think like 2008, 2001, and it's like, and then you have like mass civil unrest, and it's like, but then it starts panning to like the riots that are going on right now. It's like, and finally, and it's like it ends with like electing these schmucks that normalization. They institute these Big Brother programs, and it's like, and then they start to make promises. Doesn't matter whether or not they deliver them, right? It's like free college, free Medicare, free. And he goes, and that's how it's happening. He's like, and this isn't like the 80s. And he's like, this is all taking every second this closer. And he did defect. And he ended up, I think he wrote like a book called like A Love Letter to America. Like he legitimately loved America. But so this video game is about that. right? And it's about all these guys. There's a high-level spy that's pulling it off called Perseus, who apparently is a historical figure that they never found. And, it's all, of course, sexied up for the video game. But the entire thing is, all the comments in the YouTube, in the YouTube comment section are all like, the Black Ops 1 and most of 2 were all really sexy because it was all real shit. And then 3 and 4 got into stupid. It was like 1,000 years in the future and you're in space. And I was like, hey, whatever. But it's like back to that sort of like real history kind of thing. But it was also like, does anyone else feel like this is like oddly aimed at 2020? Like everything that's going on right now? And the tagline they keep doing is called like, know your history. Know your history. Because it's real. This is real shit. I mean, we know with China, the 100-year marathon. We know they have a 100-year plan. All of that to say this, in the original trailer, there was just a couple frames of when they're using like civil unrest like footage. It's just random riots. It's like it's like Polish uprisings, like East Germany, West Germany. But there's like a couple frames of Tiananmen Square. China reached out to Treyarch, Treyarch, the company that makes Black Ops, which I think is owned by EA. Could be wrong. Activision, whatever. And they said that you're going to remove that. You're going to remove those couple frames or you're not going to have access to the Chinese market, which is 1.3 billion people.
Yes.
And Treyarch took down the trailer and re-uploaded a new one with at the Tiananmen Square. But they still have the audacity to say, know your history. So it is now, it's already being tainted and asterisked by know your, people, the sarcasm font, capital letter, lowercase letter, capital, everyone, know your history, as you're actually wiping out your history. And so it's weird that it is real time, know your history, as the history is being erased from the literal trailer saying know your history. So, yeah.
So it's meta history now.
Yeah, it's happening right now. That doesn't have anything to do with what we were talking about, but I thought it was interesting because you and I had talked about China before, and I sent it to General Spalding, asked him what he thought.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah,
and it's a business decision. I understand it.
You're a private business. You can do whatever the fuck you want. I'm not trying to say that you can't do that. You're more than welcome to. It's like you and I always say. You're free to do that. You're free to censor. You're also free to lose your business.
Exactly. Consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't they do a version for China that doesn't have that in there?
Because China's getting bolder. Now they know they can take off the whole trailer. Because they're growing.
The whole world's kind of pissed off at China.
My viewpoint. I think we just need to nuke them from orbit. But, I know that's not a popular idea or a sane one.
Burning down the baby, taking out the baby with the bathwater.
Burning the baby with the bathwater.
Yep, my metaphors, it's so upsetting.
It might be throwing out the baby with the bathwater into the nuclear explosion. It's
yes.
It's man, I don't know. I'd like to think that I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm listening to Dawn of the Code War. Who the fuck is it by? One of the authors is the co-author is Garrett Graff of Raven Rock.
Yeah, right.
Who I got in touch with the other day again about the podcast.
Yeah, and
he sounds interested, but he sounded interested last time in like February.
Right.
And he's starting to ghost me again, so I'm gonna have to call him again and be like, "Hey,
keep it up. Don't quit."
Yeah, there's a fine line between being persistent and being like harassing, right?
Well,
you don't want to be annoying. You don't want to be like a dick. Like the dude has a life. He has a family. He has kids. He's a professor. Like, But at the same time, I really want him. But the book with Garrett Graff, but the primary author is John P. Carlin, Dawn of the Code War. It is a good fucking book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a lot of interesting shit about cyber warfare. Very in line with like Stealth War by Robert Spalding. But one of the things that I'm on right now is like the real world effects of the movie The Interview. The Seth Rogen movie about Kim Jong-un?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
And like the Sony hacks that came from North Korea. Dude, the real life story of like the making of that movie and the impacts are almost funnier than the actual movie, which I think is it's one of my favorite movies.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Some of the shit that they're like, North Korea was like sending messages to the FBI and Sony, and they're like, "You will take down this film of terrorism," and it sounds like South Park. They're like, and Sony will pay for making such an unfunny movie, making fun of dear leader. And I was just like, of course they've got their fucking cliche threats. They're like, "You remember the 11th of September? It will be a million times worse." Like, okay, North Korea. But some of the shit was like, they'd have like real serious threats, like we're gonna kill like the directors, the producers, the actors, and then they'd like release their addresses, and it was like, okay, well that's a real threat, like we need the FBI there. But then it was other stuff like, "And you will see the effect or the impact of making an unfunny movie about the glorious North Korea." And I was listening to that part this morning laughing. I was laughing or this morning while going for my walk, I was laughing like an idiot because I just imagine South Park like. I imagine a South Park clip of like, you will not release this unfunny movie about our glorious reader," and like,
I hate that film.
Like, "Oh yes, Humbrex, oh yes," but it's like, "You will not release this film, or you will be visited by 1,000 nuclear warheads for making an unfunny movie, and the world will see how unfunny your theaters are." And I was just like, you can't write this shit. But there was legitimate, yeah. And apparently Obama eventually had to make a statement on like December 19th of like 2013 or something. And I don't know if it was a public statement or if it was a statement to the intelligence community. But it's fucking brilliant. Obama was like, he was like, this is obviously a grave threat and for setting future precedences of letting an outside actor push censorship on us and fear that is letting terrorism win, and worse yet, could impose self-censorship. And but then he was like, "If they don't like you for putting out this movie, imagine what will happen when you put out a documentary on them." He goes, if you let them start censoring you now, it's over." So he says, he goes, "They are personalities," talking about Kim Jong-un, he goes, "They are personalities that don't like being made fun of, but indeed they are personalities that should probably be made fun of." And then got on Air Force One, and I was, that's fucking hilarious. So Obama basically saying, release the film, just release the film, fuck them. And then apparently like all of like North Korea has their own internet called the intranet, and it's like a self-closed system. Apparently like a couple days later, like that whole system went down and no one could get online in North Korea. It's kind of like the intelligence community smiled and winked. Like, we don't know what happened. Wow. That's crazy. But
what a coincidence.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of badass from Obama. Yeah, he was like, yeah. They should be made. And then he said, he's like, "And we will return in kind." And a couple days later, their whole system went down. Oh, wow, what happened? What a coincidence. Big dick, baby. Closing this podcast up. Are you gonna make a podcast?
We're doing one. We're doing it's a video now. It's on YouTube. Kings, Killers, and Clowns. The Underworld.
Send me the link.
So I will send you the link. We've got our interviews up there with yesterday we did a cast with the author of a new book about Capone and the Untouchables.
Okay.
And the guy that wrote The Road to Perdition. I don't know if you've seen that, the Tom Hanks and Paul Newman movie. Mm-mm. And we've been having a good time, and we're putting more up all the time.
But you're gonna keep going?
All started.
I was because I thought I saw something in your Facebook group about an episode. I was like, is Paul finally doing it?
Yeah,
dude. I think
started, buddy.
Bullshit. I think, dude. I'm excited for that. I want to see you go into it. That's gonna be a good, because there are a lot of podcasts that are just series about specific things. Like there's the Fighter Pilot podcast. Yeah. There's the After Action Review Report, which I haven't watched, but I've seen some of the guys I've had on be on there. I think Comstock, Mike Durant, and it's by this dude. It seems like it's my age, ex Green Beret. He describes himself as the world's most okayest Green Beret. but these are all like specific things, right? Fighter Pilot podcast. There's all very specific. There's like nuclear war podcasts, serial killer podcasts. Mm-hmm. You clearly have a passion for the Chicago outfit. Make a fucking Chicago, because you can't rely on the History Channel anymore because it's all a bunch of fucking rednecks looking at the aliens in the skies talking about how there's bulletproof alligators. Like, it's
right.
That shit's retarded. You can't have it anymore. So yeah, they've handed the field for legitimate. They're now re-uploading all their old shit from the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
Superstructures, documentaries, all the and the videos are on like 144p because they're all made in like 2003, but they're re-uploading them like in 2020 of the last couple months. Everyone's commenting like, "Oh my God, you remember this? How great all this shit was!" You know, real like Air Force One episodes or the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur, like wonderful. And point I'm getting at is they've completely abandoned that market in the last 10 years to go for aliens and retarded rednecks, like
and Bigfoot.
In Bigfoot, yeah. But all that real shit, they're not. No one's delivering that anymore. You got to come in there, man. There's a fucking opening. Go get it. Chicago outfit. People still want this interesting shit. It's just you're not going to get it from them because they're chasing that lucrative Bigfoot alien niche, which apparently is massive. But you know,
come on, Nazi moon bases are fun,
and they will never not be fun. And I will fucking die on that hill. But that's
right.
There's not a. I mean, that's why you have the After Action Review. That's why you have the Fighter Pilot podcast. That's why you have that channel, Mega Structures. It's all the same shit that Discovery Channel and History Channel used to do, but they don't do it anymore. Right. So, and point of that rant is, you need to go in there, swoop up that shit, take it over.
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe a ghost investigator show.
Yeah, fuck you. If you do that, I'll kill you. I will. This is a threat. This is a threat. Show this. You're a lawyer. Show it to your lawyer. This is a threat. If you turn your fucking Chicago outfit information distribution platform into a ghost show, I will kill you, Paul Whitcombe. Fucking take that out of the bank. I'll send you a transcript. I'll sign it and fingerprint it for you.
Refuse.
Yeah, I'll fingerprint that shit. You can bring that to court. I'll go to court willingly. I will kill you, Paul.
Well, thank you for being honest.
Just being honest with you, man. I won't actually do that because there is some asshole out there that will use that. But Paul Whitcombe, episode 173, 3:35 p.m. Eastern Time, August 32nd, 2020. Till next time.
Till next time, brother.
Till next time. Are you good? Did you watch that video? Did you watch that video I sent you? That like 60 frame per second video remaster of that 1902 monorail system in Germany?
I have not seen that one.
Did I not send? Which one did I send you?
You sent me the one
remote
about
viewing?
the listening stations underneath. Yes.
That's an episode that we need to do.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Isn't that weird, man?
Yeah.
That's
pretty cool.
As we were just shitting on all this dipshit stuff on Discovery Channel, I watched that and I'm like, oh, aliens under the mountains.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like Witch Mountain.
Exactly. But
yeah.
It was like independently corroborated by another remote viewer.
Well, there you go. 2 remote viewers.
Oh, there you go.
The law.
Well, I mean, shit. Seal it shut. That's it. Write it down in the history books. It is now. That's it. That's it. You know, the crystal ball said it was, so America will pay dearly for this unfunny film about remote viewing and glorious reader. Is Kim Jong-un dead? I know I said we'd end this, but is Kim Jong-un dead or alive? Do we know that?
We don't know. We don't know. There's conflicting reports.
Yeah, whenever anyone asks what this podcast is, there's a reason why I can't give a definitive answer, because no one episode is even a definitive topic.
I like it. It's Stream of Consciousness.
That's all it is. That would be a good name for the podcast, Stream of Consciousness.
It actually would be.
Yeah.
You can use that.
Man, I feel like I should.
It's not a bad idea. It's descriptive.
Yeah, Stream of... It is. I also like TPC because it's also all-encompassing. What is it? It's my podcast. No, what is it? It's Tommy's podcast. It's TPC. And that is my Stream of Consciousness. And I'm too lazy to make a new name, so let's end this bitch. I got another one at 6, so got to get ready for that.
All right, Pally.
Ease my brain. All right, Paul. Till next time. Stay safe. I like your shirt.
Thanks.
Peace.
Bye.